Hello, and welcome to another episode of Work Liberated. My name is Margaret Graziano, and I am the host of the podcast Work Liberated. If you want to take power and control over your experience of working, this is the place to learn to do it. Welcome, Janet Gregory. Janet comes with us with over 17 years providing strategy and business development consulting. She just recently authored a book called Age of Freedom. Janet, would you like to tell us a little bit about the book, Age of Freedom?
Hi, Maji. Thanks for having me along on your podcast. I really appreciate it. Well, my book, Age of Freedom, really grew out of a 25-year corporate experience career, as well as 17 years in consulting, all in Silicon Valley, working in the amazing Silicon Valley entrepreneur and invention world. And what I was exploring in my own mind was what happens when you leave the work world. And so what that did is got me to venture into this question of what is known and what is unknown. And I knew what the work world was all about, but I didn't know what it would be to leave the work world. And so what I did was I reached out to women and asked the question. And 650 women answered our survey. They were all professional women, from managers to business owners to individual contributors, entrepreneurs, and everything. Covered the complete spectrum of industries. And if you wanted a snapshot of the 650 women that answered our survey, that is also located in the appendix for the book. But what we found is the 650 women that answered our survey really became our guides, mentors, and advisors, and really opened our eyes. And the reason I say ours is that this book is co-authored with another woman who I had worked with a number of years ago. So the book is filled with learnings and discoveries, and every woman's voice that responded to our survey is heard. And so kind of one of the things that comes out of this is that, first of all, hate to say this, there's no easy button. Each of us is unique and different, and will be approaching the work world and change in our work world in very unique and different ways.
So when you think about approaching change in the work world, that's kind of a really general statement. So what do you mean by that? What do you mean by approaching change? Is it approaching the change of leaving the corporate world, or approaching the change of we're all coming back from this crazy world of pandemic, or approaching the change of the global acceleration of the pace that we're working at, or all of it?
Well, it actually, what we learned is that it's all of those things. So first of all, coming into the book was this question of retirement. How, from being completely in the thick of it, in a career where it's very intense, can you step away from the work world? Well, the big realization is that, first of all, you don't ever have to, and you can move in and out of the work world in many different ways. So the book actually opens up this. Many women may move from being intensely, what we call in the book, in the thick of it, and half the women who answered our survey are in the thick of it, to working on your own terms, which could be working for yourself. I was in consulting for 17 years. It could be even doing something radical, like stepping out of the paid work world altogether. I will avoid using the word retirement, because I especially think professional women will never retire. You may not be paid by others, but you never quite retire because you're too much of a go-getter, a doer, and a make things happen kind of person. So your change can happen at any age, at any stage. You can move back and forth pretty much seamlessly in and out of the work world. And it could be in the thick of it, working on your own terms. We even had some women in their early stages in their careers who stepped out of the paid work world so that they could focus on developing a family and then later step back in. So change can embrace a little bit of everything.
Great. So when you hear the word liberation, specifically at work, what does that mean to Janet Gregory, co-author of Age of Freedom?
Well, I actually look at the liberation as really, and it's a word you use, Maji, is empowerment. And that is that anything is possible. And first of all, empower yourself. Have a commitment, a desire, a direction, and a willingness to investing in both yourself and your skill set in terms of where you want to go. The other thing in empowerment is to be empowered by others. And that is to realize you're not alone. So it's leveraging guides, mentors, coaches, advisors. I don't know what you want to call them. You can call them any of those things, but leveraging the experience of others. And part of the reason to do that, just like we did in stepping out and doing a survey, is because you cannot see yourself or your situation as clearly as others can. It kind of gives you this 360-degree view because you are on the inside looking out, but they, your coaches and mentors and whatnot, are on the outside looking not only at you, but looking at the world around you. So it's really, maybe it's Sheryl Sandberg's book, Lean In. It's us all helping each other out. And I'll throw in a few other things on empowerment. It's empower yourself and your own growth through celebration. Celebrate your accomplishments. And accomplishments don't need to be big. They can be just movement. You're making the movements in the right direction. Empowering yourself, recognizing that you are growing and you're growing stronger. And it's those big things and, more importantly, the little things that make a big difference. And in today's world, while I think about empowerment, it's also understanding, standing up for, and claiming your own rights. So you have to be aware of those. Empower yourself in the system itself. Yeah. And as you bring all this together, it's giving back. You empower others, which empowers you. And so I see this really as a very cyclical kind of thing. So the liberation is, I'm stealing the word empowerment, which you use a great deal, that I think is so important.
Yeah, it's interesting because as you talk, I'm and probably because, when something is important to you, you listen through your own filters. Well, we have a women's leadership retreat that we do 4 times a year, and it's called Ignite Power. And it really is about liberating the human spirit of the woman at work and in life. And what it means to me as I'm listening to you is it's really about taking ownership for your own experience of life and work, and whatever that looks like. Like if you don't like the work you're doing, if you don't like the people you're doing it for, if you don't feel like you're fulfilled and you can't get fulfilled in the job and you can't make things different, then maybe liberation means hasta la vista, baby, and I'm going to be part of the great resignation. Or maybe liberation means it's time to start your own business. So for you, Janet, when you took the journey of leaving corporate and moving on to be a consultant, can you share with us what that was like for you?
Okay, well, that happened too easily for me. When I first stepped out of, so I've worked for 4 companies. My last 2 companies were startups. The first startup company, I was on the founding executive team of that, and we took it public. My second startup was actually a turnaround, which we also took public. So when I left those 2 startup companies, my network, if you will, empowered and liberated me and brought me, kind of sucked me into the whole world of consulting. And we talk a lot about this in the book on how to start your own business and why that kind of business, like consulting, works for some but not for others, and how to find this out for yourself. So there really are sort of 3 things that we investigate when you get to the end of the book. It all kind of brings it together, that help you find that right place for you at the right time. And the 3 things to get in touch with yourself is, first of all, and most important, is your core values. And that is a combination of causes, basic rights, your fundamental principles. You may be unhappy at work because perhaps the workplace that you're in does not share your same fundamental values. So you need to investigate this. So these things are important. And that's part of the investigation, which is your personal investigation. Are you satisfied? Are you willing to take some risks? You ask yourself those 7 WH questions, the who, when, where, why, how, and how much. And am I happy? And is my whole wellness structure working for me? Because women are multidimensional. And then finally is having that action plan, like building around this, your action and your inspiration for doing things. In business, if you're in a structured business environment, you probably have a development plan for you at business, expanding your expertise and growing and blah, blah, blah. Well, do the same for yourself personally.
Yeah.
I read an article, oh gosh, this was a gazillion years ago. It was in HBR, Harvard Business Review, and it talked about a master's degree. Master's degree takes you 2 years. You read 1 book a month, and you tell everyone you know, you network, because you're networking with people in whatever your degree is. Well, why can't you do be your own master's degree? Read every book that you can find. So read 1 book a month. You can do that. Read a book a month. I'm not saying 1 a week, 1 a month. Read a book on the subject, and you can be an expert in photography if you want. Tell everybody you know that you want to do this. I need to liberate myself from work, or I want to be a photographer. I don't know. But you will find in 2 years, you will tap into an amazing network and the expertise in that field. So you can liberate yourself with your own development plan. So those 3 things, your core values, your personal investigation, how you're feeling about yourself, and a development plan for yourself, are those critical things that put you on the leadership journey of you.
Yeah, that's fabulous. So it's so interesting because in the podcast before this, I had a very different kind of coach. She works on neuroscience and leadership, and same thing. It's all about alignment, which I don't think there's an accident. The company that I run is called Keen Alignment, but it's about really aligning your heart, your head, your spirit, which has nothing to do with religion or God, but it's your internal light, with your passion and with where you're going and how you earn your money. So you mentioned something, and I'm not picking on you. I'm just curious. You said women are multidimensional. Does that mean men are not?
Well, I am not going to say men are not, but our survey went out to 650 women, so I've got their voices. I have had many men read the book and say, this isn't just for women. And And I guess it's true. The fundamental principles are the same, but I didn't ask 650 men to give us their input. So, okay, there you go.
I was just curious about that. I mean, I have studied a great deal about the brain and about leadership, and I also have heard and read, and who knows really what the facts are, but that men are kind of mono-focused, single focused. They can go out and go get that animal that they're hunting, and that a woman, back from evolution, that the women were gathering berries and fruit and kind of talking to the other women and networking. And so evolution has had women develop, let's call diffuse awareness, and have lots of other things going on, which for years and years and years and years, men were got to go get something, got to protect, got to provide, got to procreate. But I don't know, because I'm not a man either. So let's talk about why you think so many, if you have an opinion about why so many women are leaving corporate right now during this mass resignation in high numbers, higher than men are.
Well, I think the reason so many are leaving is that recognition, whether it's an overt recognition or if it's just behind this unconscious recognition, that either what the business is doing or how the business is doing it is not aligned with their internal core value and their belief systems. And that there's something fundamentally that is not using keen alignment, not in alignment.
Got it.
So that's kind of what I think.
A disintegration of what I'm doing for a living and what I believe in.
Yes. Yep.
So you also mentioned, I don't remember if you said physical health or well-being, but it implied that well-being and health is a big part of happiness. Can you share with me, and fulfillment? Can you share with me your personal beliefs on the well-being part of this?
Well, this is where I guess I come back to women being so multidimensional. And of course, I can't say men aren't, but I know for sure women are. And that is that our well-being is a combination of physical health, which is important, mental health, and that's also even just exercising your knowledge and your brain power. It's emotional health and emotional well-being. It is spiritual, whether that is a structured spiritualization or not. It's social, and it's also environmental, which an environment can be something small like the household you live in. It can be the community you live in. It is the world you live in, and it can be the global community that you live in. And all of those things in combination create wellness for us as individuals. And I think that when things are not in sync, that is where that fundamental dissatisfaction comes from, and the need for change.
Yeah, it's I remember years ago I took a class with a well-known name, Jack Canfield. He wrote Chicken Soup for the Soul, but he also wrote The Success Principles. And my sales coach actually said, you know, I know you've done Landmark and all these other things. Go do Success Principles. You're going to love it. And leave your phone at home. So anyhow, the big piece that I walked away from there is that our life is like in concentric circles. Like, so you've got me, how I feel about myself and how aligned I am with my values. Then my outer world, like my physicality and the people I hang around with. You're the sum of the 5 people you spend the most time with. And then, you know, and that has to do with mental and emotional and well-being. And then it's the community and the house you live in and the place you live in and the weather that you experience, all that impacts us. And then when you go to work, is that a reflection of who you are in the world? Or am I an advocate for health, but I'm working at a tobacco company? that might be a mismatch. And then if I feel good about me and I am mentally well, emotionally well, physically well, well, then I have more to give others. And then I have more awareness and more insight. And then I can coach and consult and give other people that feedback. And I always find it interesting when people say, well, I'm going to quit my job and I'm going to become a coach, but their life is kind of in disarray. And I wonder how they, like, that's me being judgmental, but I wonder how a person that their life isn't working, how they coach people. I don't know. That's kind of where the mind and the body and the spirit are not connected. Do you have anything to say about that? Any thoughts?
Right. Well, I would say that a person that is not internally in balance, if they are also coaching others, it's a combination search where they are learning from who they're coaching and they're learning from their research and study they're doing as a coach and while they are coaching. Because otherwise, I think it's very difficult to be effective as a coach if you're off balance.
Yeah. And the one thing in our coaching school, they talk about a level 1, level 2, and level 3 listening. Level 1 is the filter that everything Janet says, I'm listening to, well, how does it affect me? And what would I do? And so now I'm coaching Janet about what I want to do versus what Janet wants to do. Level 2 is me and Janet, we're in the world. I see her, I feel her, and it's give and take. And level 3, Janet and I disappear. And all that's there is what Janet wants to create, and I'm a conduit for that. And so, of course, the coaching
Right.
would be in level 3. So I was just reading about this alliance, about this Kickstart Alliance. Tell me about the Kickstart Alliance. What do you do there? How do you help people there? What is it all about?
Well, we're fundamentally a sales and marketing consulting group. We founded the organization 20 years ago, and it's really about aligning companies and their products and services with customers, and that alignment being multidimensional. I was the lead of the sales practice there, since the majority of my career has been in sales and product marketing. And then we also have key consultants that are doing customer success and how do you reach out in marketing and keep those messages consistent and powerful and also very authentic so that you are not reaching beyond what your product capabilities are, because sometimes we share our hopes and dreams. Companies will share hopes and dreams of what their products and services are as opposed to what they actually are and what they do. And so helping customers stay in alignment with that. One of the experts on our team also focuses on customer advisory boards and partner advisory boards. So listening to those key constituents in your overall delivery chain as you're bringing products and services into the marketplace.
So I hear that with the book Age of Freedom, it's about a personal alignment with me, myself, what I do for a living, and then your business is about having people or companies have their products in alignment with their products really do.
Yes, and also being aligned with their customers and listening to their customers. Oftentimes, that is a key voice that's not heard around the planning table inside companies, is what do the customers really have to say? Or if they have a multi-stage delivery mechanism for bringing products and services to customers, listening to all those that are in that delivery chain. And that is just critical for success, is to really listen to all of them.
So now, besides being in alignment, I do my work, I take care of my body, I take care of my spirit, I take care of my health. Now I decide I have 3 options. I'm going to go start my own company. I'm going to go and work for another company that's already doing what I want to do, or I'm going to go consult for many different companies. How does a person
Mhm.
that wants liberation and is hungry for it and is doing their own work already, they've explored their values, but now they have three doorways. I can start my own
Right.
thing and be the boss. I can go join and let someone else be the boss, or I can join a bunch of people and we could do it together. How do they know what's the right fit for them?
Well, I'd say there's a couple things. First of all, I'll come back to the talk to others, lean in, bring in the assistance of others, because it's like asking a magic question. Ask someone who's been through each of those separate doors. So it's probably three people if there are three doors you're evaluating going through. And the magic question is, after you've walked through the door, what do you wish you knew before you went through that door? And it's a magic question because they can look back over the bridges they've crossed and say, you know, I wished I had better boots on my shoes, and I wish I had a compass with me. And so this is totally the magic question you can ask them, and they'll give you magic answers to help you be prepared to walk through that particular door, and also to see what works for you and what doesn't. So for me, that would probably be my first suggestion. Now, some people like to just jump into the pool and walk through the door and say, okay, world, here I am. And you can do that too, but do know that you're going to probably stub your toe and scrape your knee and, you know, bump your shoulders against the walls, and it won't be as smooth a transition. It may be fun, but it may not be as smooth a transition as you would hope. So I don't know. I'm an avid skier. So it would be to me like deciding one day, I've never been on skis before or even watched it on television, but I want to go skiing, strapping on boots and skis and just sending myself off a hill. Well, you can do it, but it won't be pretty.
Yeah, it sounds like our last guest, and she was saying that at a certain level, you have to engage all areas of the brain. You know, that's what consciousness is. That's what liberation is. It's having the feeling or the inclination or the intuition, but then checking in with our right hemisphere and our left hemisphere, our logical side and our let's go jump off the cliff side, and let's see what logically works for us and meets our passions. So I have another.
And we've probably all done that too. You know what? So the other thing is, look at yourself first. You have the three doors in front of you. So look at yourself even first. When did I just jump in, and what was the outcome? And would I do that again, or would I do something a little differently? And then also look at yourself when you'd made a more thoughtful move, where you had done more planning and research and understanding before you made the move, and get the feel for yourself on which one was comfortable and which one you're either ready to do today. Some days the risk is like, I need to go for it. And you do want to just jump off the hill. The first time I went skiing on a black diamond, you know, you have to do it the first time.
I guess you do. I don't do black diamonds unless it's an accident. So let me ask you a question. You have had all three doors in your life because you've done, you know, you've worked in the corporate world, you've done your own thing, and then you've joined a group of other people. So I'd like to, if it's easy for you to give me this answer, or if it comes top of mind, the moment of reckoning for you, like your own moment of liberation. Do you remember a point in your life where you were at a fork in the road and something happened, or you had the intuitive hit, or you did your research and then it like came to you, this is my clear next step?
Oh, that is, you know what? I'll wake up at 3 a.m. and have a good answer to that question. I will tell you there have been so many interesting transitions for me. You know, early in my career, this was when women started moving into leadership roles. And, you know, there were many times where other women hadn't walked those paths before. So I just kind of went into it boldly, you know, so I got my boldness behind me. I was fearless on the outside, not on the inside, and just kind of went for it. There were other times when I had done more preparation. And then there's other times where I got in, like consulting. I jumped into the consulting world. I loved it. And I found out, though, I missed the collaboration of a business environment. And so I sought out other consultants, and that is how we created Kickstart Alliance. So
I experienced the exact same thing, which is why I have people working at Keen Alignment with me, because it is, when you don't have anybody to brainstorm with and anybody to collaborate with, and it also isn't as much fun for me, at least, because I'm a collaborator. All right, next question. You're a pilot. I imagine that if I was a pilot, and I'm not, but that I would experience such liberation in not the climb, but once the plane is at this level, not that, but here. And I make all that up because I'm not a pilot, but give me the sense of, like, how many women pilots are there? I mean, there's more and more coming, but first of all, I want to know how many women in your circle that you know that are pilots.
Okay, well, first I'm going to ask you an overarching question. Of all the pilots that there are, what percentage would you guess are women?
10%.
10%? My guess was 20%, because in the community that I live in and was working in, I met so many women pilots. I was guessing it was 20%. Well, it turns out that I got my pilot's license, and I've had it now for 10 years, is that I'm part of the 7%. Only 7% of all the pilots in the world are women.
Wow.
Most of that 7% is actually here in the U.S. Women pilots, by the way, fly just the same way as men pilots. It's all the same. And from a liberation standpoint, I know many aerobatic pilots that are also do show performances. And by the way, there's an all-woman air show coming up shortly that's got all air traffic controllers are women, all the pilots are women, the air boss is a woman. It's actually totally a fun thing. So
where is that?
I don't have the location at my fingertips, but I will get that for you.
I think Vivian is Googling it right now. All women's air show. That's very cool.
Oh yeah.
So
yes, one of our neighbors and one of my inspirations, Vicki Benzing, is one of the performers who will actually be at the show. So she was talking about it the other day.
Yeah, we want to put it on the podcast. So back to this that experience.
Back to liberation of flying. First of all, there's a tremendous amount of skill that goes into learning and becoming a pilot. So in order to be free, you have to be capable. So there is a certain amount of learning and understanding that comes from it. For me personally, the liberation is that I live in the high Sierras, and most of my work is in the San Francisco Bay Area, which is a 3 to 5 hour drive in a car, but 45 minutes in an airplane, where you can fly over and laugh at all the people sitting in traffic. And that is
get my license.
That is freedom and liberation. So
yeah, that's great. So,
and by the way, there's no, you know, I don't have to go through security. I just can hop in a plane and away I go.
So that's inspiring. So do you own a plane or do you rent a plane?
Well, I will tell you it's actually both. So I belong to a flying club, and that was where I learned how to fly. And you basically then just rent the plane when you need to use it, and someone else manages it and maintains it and that kind of thing. But my husband and I also do own an airplane, which I also fly as well.
How exciting. So it's funny that you said, you know, it's not just freedom. There's a lot of discipline that goes into learning to fly. I don't know why I get fuzzy on this thing every time I move. When I studied the brain and the brain on leadership, you know, we all heard about the brain on drugs, but the brain on leadership, and, you know, all these people that quest for freedom, they want freedom, and that comes from the right hemisphere. Well, there is no freedom without structure, because if there's no structure, then freedom turns into chaos, which I imagine is the last thing you want from your pilot.
That is true. I will tell you that's interesting, the parallels. There's a lot that I've learned in flying that has also helped me better understand even business. And like one of a simple thing is coming in for a landing. If you have a stabilized approach when you're coming in for landing, the landing is seamless. And you and the passengers don't even notice that you've touched the ground almost. But if you're not coordinated, then things can be a little bumpy and rocky. And it's, you know what, the interesting thing, it's the same in business as it is in an airplane. And so I love to see those kinds of parallels.
Well, I would love to fly with you and get a coaching during the flying, because I could see all the parallels as you're talking about it. I fly a lot on commercial jets, and I almost can sense the pilot's grounding or their level of mindfulness from how that plane goes, from even how the announcements go to the acknowledgement to what's happening, because I have been in bad storms and never had the experience of being in a bad storm like you're talking about. And then I've been in other, like, especially during COVID, very janky flights, very weird behavior. And you could just sense the stress from the flight attendants. And I can imagine that it was coming from the cockpit, but who knows? So in a wisdom of Janet Gregory, Age of Freedom, Work Liberated, what would you like to say to close this podcast to not just the women listening, but the men listening? Because there are many men who have been charged with transforming organizational culture or fixing culture so the great resignation will stop. What lesson or wisdom can you share with anybody who wants to create their workplace as a space of liberation and freedom and empowerment?
I guess I would say to take it on as a leadership journey, the leadership of you. And as a professional, we're willing to take on new challenges, tough problems, a new team, and do this also for yourself. Take yourself on, the challenge of you, the problems of you, build your own team around you. And by the way, teams change. Players will change in and out on your team. Know that you are going to transit from known to unknown. So look for other guidance and advice. It's a sign of strength, not of weakness, to ask for assistance and to look to others. In addition to the knowing and the known and unknown, it's the knowing and the doing. In the knowing, the way I view it is that without purpose, actions that you take are meaningless. So you really want to be in touch with those core values that you have. And on the doing side, is without action, purpose is unfulfilled. So you could be in touch with your core values, but if you don't take action with them, they are unfulfilled. It doesn't matter if it's a great thinker, a philosopher, if they haven't shared their thoughts with someone, they're lost. And anyway, so I think that is what I would have as take on that leadership journey of you.
So I love that. So now I'm going to ask you something that I wasn't prepared, but so I have a book coming out myself. It's called Ignite Culture. And the whole first part of the book, 4 chapters, are about the leader taking on themselves. And you think you can buy culture in a box for a software for 40 grand or whatever you're going to pay, and do 4-hour session. We'll get it done for you, 4 hours, right? And then there's no deep work. There's no, why do you want to take on culture? What's going on in the culture that you want to fix? And the quick fix, let's just buy it in a box, just doesn't work. And I love that you and I are so aligned. That's why our mutual friend, referred us to each other. So thank you. And I'm going to ask you to read the book and give us your thoughts on it.
Great. I look forward to your book coming out. That's awesome. Congratulations, Maji. And thank you for the opportunity to talk to you and your audience today.
Thank you. And you'll get the opportunity to get Janet's book. There will be a tag at the end of the podcast. So if you want to get Age of Freedom, you can get that. So thank you, Janet. Thank you for your presence. And I'll wave to you next time I'm sitting on the highway going to Tahoe and you're flying over.
Oregon.
I'll wave back.
All women.
Oh, it's in Oregon, the all women. So what is it? We have to say it now because maybe I found it.
It is the Oregon International Air Show.
Oregon International Air Show.
And
when is it?
May 20th to the 22nd.
Oh, May 20th to May 22nd coming up. Well, how exciting. Awesome. All right.
Thank you, Vivian, for researching that.
Bye.